take a turn and go a completely different direction. And I have finally decided that I'm just open to that, and that I don't need to overthink things anymore. That's hard to let go. I overthink things all the time. So we'll see what happens. This time next week I could be saying, it didn't work out. And that's going to be okay too. So, getting back to Violet Days, Lena Hansen, just lovely, nice individual. She makes great pop music. She has an EP out right now called Made in My Head. And then one of the songs on there is called Somber, and it features a previous guest on this show, Morgan, who's another good, pure like pop artist. And she has a new single out too, and that is called After Party. And you can check her music out on Spotify. Like I said, you can go to violetdays.com and check them out. And here is that conversation from the green room at the Van Buren, which has been a really fucking cool place to do some interviews, by the way. Yeah, so here's that. I'll see you on the other side. Record on that there, and there we go. It's Lena Hansen?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. I don't want to... I was concerned initially about mispronouncing your name or something. Then I looked. I'm like, that seems pretty easy.
Oh, yeah. No, it's correct. Lena Hansen.
All right. So we'll just kind of run into it here. Is this your first time in the States, touring-wise? When were you here before?
I mean, it's definitely our first time on tour. We've never been on tour before. But it's the first time traveling around, seeing more places than LA and New York.
Gotcha, because I would imagine you hit the coast, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. I've been actually longing to do a road trip through the United States, and this is like the perfect thing to tour and see places. It's pretty amazing.
Are you in a van or a bus or what?
We have an SUV.
SUV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very squeezed in. I don't think we realized how much stuff we would have. Mm-hmm. So, and now we're 4 people. The first leg we were only 3. But now we're 4. And we have found ways to like make it happen, but it's very tight. Tight and cozy.
I would imagine. You get to know everybody really well, really quick, right?
Oh, yes. And we all share room as well, so.
Oh, wow.
It's good.
Very, very cozy.
Very cozy, yeah.
So you've, I did a little reading up because I had, full disclosure, I had not been familiar with your band when Dee reached out to me, and I started listening to the music, and I'll get into that in a sec, but so you got this kind of cool award, like rookie songwriter producer in for some Scandinavian pop. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I had never heard of it. It's the
the Dennis Pop Awards. Yeah, so it's very cool actually. It's so Dennis Pop, he was the founder of this very cool publishing company back in the 90s called Cheiron Music.
Okay.
And that's where Max Martin came from too. So Max Martin and Dennis Pop worked on like all of the stuff together. Ace of Base, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, all of the big stuff. And after he died, they wanted to do something in his honor. And so they started this fund thing called Dennis Pop Awards. And they decided this was only it's only been going since 2014, I think. Mm-hmm. Or 13, even 13, I think it was. Where they started to trying to lift up-and-comers from Sweden, like songwriters and artists. So they have like different categories, and they do a gala every summer where they name a few nominees and then one winner in each category. So I was nominated in the Rookie Songwriter of the Year 2015.
That's pretty cool. How long had
amazing.
you been doing? How long have you been making music up to that point?
I feel like forever. Probably professionally. I've been doing it for like 10 years. Yeah, it's been a while.
That's you don't look like you could possibly be old enough to be doing it 10 years. When did you start?
I wrote my first song when I was 13.
Okay.
So
all right.
It's been a while. But yeah, it's crazy. But I think I just like, also I always knew that I wanted to do music. So I feel like I've been doing it forever, you know?
And what did you start learning music on?
Piano.
Piano?
Yeah. It was definitely, we had a piano, like an old synth at home at my dad's place that it was passed along to me from my sisters and brothers. And I'm the youngest of 6.
Oh, wow. That's
so everybody had that synth. So it's like I think it's from the 70s or something. But it's very cool. It has some cool like pre-made sounds and stuff. So I used to like use the drum machine and the synth and use like, you could have like pre-made chord progressions. And I started like playing around with melodies, not really realizing I was writing a song. I think I was just doing whatever I felt, you know? And then I think it was around like 13 when I discovered Avril Lavigne.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, I think that was the breakthrough moment when I was like, when I heard her stuff, like the early stuff, the first songs, I was like, wow, this genre speaks to me. I feel like I'm an angry teenager. I can relate to this and I want to do this, and I loved skateboards and, you know, stuff like that. So that was like the inspiration I feel that started everything for me. Really like starting to write music.
Well, did you then have formal training, or was it all learning how to you just had an ear for melody? Yeah,
I mean, my family is very musical. I would say my brother is amazing on accordion. Huh? He always played for us when we were kids. He's a lot older than me. So he was always like with me and my sister playing songs, and we would dance and sing with him. And he plays all the instruments. Like you can hand him whatever instrument. And he may not be able, he may not ever have played it, but he finds a way to play it. And it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
That's really impressive. That's a gift I wish I had.
I know. And I've been like struggling with that my whole life, comparing myself to that, you know? But it's been super inspiring for me to see that and see that it's possible somehow. If you just like train on your instrument, you can learn. So for me, it's always been like learn by ear. I went to like music school for piano for a few years, but honestly, I didn't learn anything. Like I learned like the basic songs, like the kids songs, but I didn't learn to read music. I was always faking that I was like, that I had done my homework. Then I would just take it out by ear. But I never learned that. I kind of wish I did, but I kind of like it more.
That's
to
its
be
own
free.
Talent. I think like Paul McCartney never learned how to read music until he was much older.
Yeah.
You know, like Elvis Costello never did either.
Yeah.
Well, until I guess late into their career. But there's a lot of great pop musicians who never learned how to read music. So
I think it's like, to me, it's always been more logic to hear like whatever is right.
Yeah.
Because people can be like, if you play some chords, a chord progression, and somebody would be like, that's not theoretically right. And but it sounds right, you know. To me, that's always been like, it doesn't make sense to me to when something is like, oh, this is not correct on paper, but it sounds good. To me, I'm always trusting my ear more than people that tell me that it's wrong on paper.
And there's
you know?
some level of intuition to it, and then
it's like you have to switch this note, and I will be like, no, I don't want to switch. I kind of like that it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so
a little imperfection and discordancy goes, I think, really well in pop music.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
So how, I'm curious, as being here in a country that's not super supportive of the arts, what was it, is Sweden a place that supports the arts pretty heavily, or do you find that that there's a Is there a sort of welcoming? You think you mentioned like you mentioned Ace of Base. If you go back, there's ABBA and there's Bjork, and I'm sure I'm getting all. They're not all from Sweden, I know, but there's this rich tradition of Scandinavian pop music.
Oh yeah.
So is it something? Is it a point of national pride that's sort of encouraged, or?
It's a very interesting question, actually. I feel like definitely used to be more support for it. Mm-hmm. I would say, sadly. I feel like it's when it comes to like grants and stuff that you can get from the nation, or whatever you call it. It's a lot of like, it's always a big support for folk music. And like if you're a violinist or an instrumentalist that does something like a very an instrument that's more complicated.
Okay.
If that's the right word to use, I don't know. And by all means, I mean, I really appreciate that music too, and I think it's so cool. I wish I could play violin, but for me as a pop musician and pop writer, I kind of wish there was more support for us too. Because it's, I don't know how it's viewed when people talk about it, but it seems like it's harder for us to get around. Also, it's more of us as well. It's a lot of people that does it in Sweden. Sweden is very big in pop music. What I would say is that it's a great platform to start in Sweden to write music, since obviously we have Max Martin, and it's a small country. It's a very small scene, music industry in Stockholm. Everybody knows everybody. It's easy to slip your demo into somebody's door, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like in that way it's very good to start off in Sweden. But when it comes to live music too, I feel such a difference being in the States.
Really?
Because people go and see live music here. They go out on like weeknights. They go out to watch music and they seem so excited about it. And that has like awakened something in me. And I'm so excited to just like keep playing live more. It's really hard to tour in Sweden. There's really no venues left in Stockholm. It's like the arenas are there, but that's basically it. We have these small venues, but they're closing one by one. So it's really sad. Like all these classic venues. There was one venue, I know that Björn from ABBA, he was really fighting to keep it. But they closed 3 years ago. It was called Debaser. And they closed to make it a library.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is also very strange to me, because isn't music more popular than renting a book, you know?
Well, I mean, I think there's value in both, but the idea of
it's just a legendary venue, you know, that went away. And to me, that was really sad. And I don't know, it's a small country too. It's hard to tour there. So it's great that if you're able to go here to do a tour, obviously that's amazing. And I'm so happy to be here to do that. And I would love to do some more festivals in Sweden and stuff like that. And also start to do more shows.
Have you done, well, so before I get to that question, how did you sort of, what was that kind of path for you? You mentioned that it was easier because of the kind of tight-knit community, that it was easier to get your demo out there maybe, but still to kind of be, you know, pulled up out of whatever, there's I'm sure there's probably still a ton of demos going around, right? So how did that, I guess, how were you sort of discovered, and what was the path into actually beginning to record and go down that route?
Yeah, that was kind of crazy actually, because I'm from a super small town in Sweden where like 2,000 people. And I was just so lucky that there was one music producer in the village. It wasn't even a town. And he was really good. And do you know Björn Skifs?
I don't.
Hooked on a Feeling?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's from my hometown.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty crazy. And he and a lot of other musicians had been recording with this guy. And I started talking to him.